Good evening, everyone. It is now 6 p.m. I will call the special Board of Selectmen meeting to order for Monday, August 30th, 2021. All three selectmen are present, in addition to our recording secretary who's live here in the audience. I will remind everybody that this meeting is being recorded, even though it is live and virtual. If you are in the live audience and you'd like to speak, you will need to come to this table. We have a chair set up for you if you'd like, and speak into the echo-free microphone. If you are in either the live audience or the virtual audience, you will need to state your name and your address before speaking. With that, we'll get the meeting started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Yes. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And if everybody could remain standing, we're just going to pay respects to the 13 service members that passed away recently in the line of duty with a moment of silence. And may God bless their families right now. All right, so as everybody here knows, we are here to discuss the use of the American Rescue Plan Act funds. We are going to begin the evening with an opportunity for citizens here in the live audience or virtually to speak prior to the selectmen getting into discussion about the uses of those funds. So at this time, I'll open it up for citizen comments. The floor is open. Okay, you can. Okay, so Winnie radios.
I've been told I project pretty good, so
Okay.
I probably don't need to sit.
All right.
But Matt Herman, Green Acres Lane, Quinnebog. So I was at the first meeting, so I was able to kind of see what people's interests are. And I think when we look at the options that were given to us, there's a fourth option, which essentially would allow us to get grants, grant money. And I think that would be the best option for us to pursue, because instead of having half of a pie, we could have a whole pie. So, and then we can better address the issues with our fire department and EMS, because clearly, whether it's the community fire here on Main Street or all of our fire departments, I think all of them need help, are constantly underfunded. And, that would be a great way to bring more funds into the community and into fire and EMS. So that would be my first point, which is that I think option 4 would be our best option. That being said, I also wanted to make a brief comment based on some of the responses from our initial meeting in terms of no one really being interested in direct payments. And I think there's been a negative connotation put on those that, that money's for people looking for handouts. And I don't necessarily think, first of all, when you look at the intention of the rule, I don't think that's what that's saying. And the comments that, well, they have access agency, they can go get a free tank of oil, etc. Again, I don't think that's what this is for. This is for COVID relief. And there are a lot of people in town affected by COVID. They're not just people who, whatever, are unemployment or whatever negative connotation you want to put on that. Okay. I mean, Ken made a great point on Winnie today for seniors. Seniors were the most susceptible class. I'm sure a lot of them stayed home throughout the pandemic. I'm sure their bills did rise. And, they're people on fixed incomes. So I would love to see direct payments maybe go there. Another big one is, we all know it. You all drive around town. What sign is in everyone's yard? We love essential workers, right? Well, why don't we take care of our essential workers then? I think they are a class that absolutely should be included in this. And there should be something done for those people who did work through the pandemic, who maybe, as people would say, didn't get the benefits that other classes of people got. And really that we claim that we love, and then we get some money designated for COVID relief, which they are a part of, and we don't even consider them. We tell them that they're looking for handouts. So I really think that including those people, that includes fire and EMS, because they are essential workers. That includes small businesses. Okay, I remember going to Milltown Grill, and they're not open for months, and tipping, $40, $50, because I know that waitress isn't getting tips anymore. But there should be something here. That's what this money is for. People like that who lost wages, lost jobs, businesses that lost income. So I really, I wanted to push back on some of the comments that were made and the fact that no one really wants to look at direct payments, but I think people are looking at it the wrong way. And I think it's a great way to help all of the people in our town, because most of us were affected by COVID. And again, specifically the people that we champion as essential workers, we should do something for them. So really, I just wanted to contribute that, because I do think that's something that really not a lot of people had interest in, but I think it should be considered. And however we're able to work out, again, I would like to go option 4, where we put as much in our initial proposal as possible, see if, send that out. This is only an initial proposal that we have to do right now. So we put that proposal in, we submit that to the state, and maybe get 1-to-1 matching on our funds. And now we have twice as many funds. And now we can better help our fire and EMS, some of our other projects that I know are necessary. And absolutely, we have to work out a way to include them all into this proposal. But I really don't think we should forget about the people that took us through COVID. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. John.
Before I come up to speak, can I ask you to clarify what option 4 is?
Okay.
Because
I assume you read the proposal.
I did not finish reading the.
Option 4 was an option that Tara had brought to our attention. So everybody in the virtual audience, Sean Brissett just asked what option 4 was that Mr. Herman was referring to. And that would be the state of Connecticut. It's a grant opportunity that the details have not been clarified yet. It's an opportunity or a, let's see. It's a notice of funding opportunity. It has not been declared yet, and the details of the grant program have not been disclosed yet. So we don't even know what it might cover. But option 4 chooses, from what I could conclude, chooses a few major options that are before us and says, hey, we're going to present this, and then we're going to present a bigger plan to potentially get matching funds of up to probably $1 million in additional funding, which could help to fund some of the smaller projects. So, and I do have I can make a copy of that for everybody if they need it. Correct. But being that there's 169 towns and there's $100 million available, the chance that you would get 10 million would be, you'd have to have a major project.
Backtrack if something isn't approved, because I felt like this whole process is so much, which is typical of the whole reason bill. What if something doesn't come through and you say, okay, well, now we want to spend the money this way instead? Can you do that?
I think option 4, what option did, option 4 picked the most major projects to set our sights on. Those are the ones we want to complete. And if we get the additional grant money, then that would be a bonus. So we're going to pick the most important. And what's that?
It's a bad system. What is it?
Right.
I'm not telling you all rules before you have to start playing the game.
Yeah. I have to say, you have to come up to speak though, so everybody virtually knows what you're saying. So. Is there any other citizen comments at this time?
Hey, Amy, this is Tara. If you want me to.
We
you
have
want me
one
to-
from John Rice.
39 East Thompson Road. I'd just like to have the selectmen consider tourism, the tourism, that being the 4th train wreck in East Thompson, a funding part of that, so the historical and the town can continue with that. It seemed to be a very interesting topic where we had a film a couple of weeks ago up at the school And we opened the museums that are up there at the Turtle, the high school. There was some 600 people that showed up to view that film on the 2 sessions. So there is an interest in tourism in the town of Thompson. So I'd like to have the committee consider funding some monies to continue the process of the Trails Committee and the Historical Society working together. The other item I would like to have considered is to refurbishing or the track at the high school. It's in dire need. There's a lot of people that used to use that track. There's some that still do, but unfortunately, the track is in pretty bad shape and it's pretty dangerous. If you go up there, walk, there's large cracks in the pavement. So funding some part of that would help out.
Thank you, John. I do want to expound on what you said, and in option 4, Tira had identified that Connecticut Deep Recreational Trails Grant. It's a program has already been mentioned with this report that the notice of funding opportunity is currently open with a submission deadline of November 1st. So that project, the Airline Trail project, already has a matching grant program that's available for us to apply to. So that will be a strong consideration, and I just wanted to let everybody know about that. All right. Citizen comments, still open for citizen comments. And I see none in virtual, and no more here.
Hey, Amy, this
I
is
believe
Tara.
Justin Yong has a presentation that he'd like to make. It's something he had shared with me maybe about a week ago. He's compiled some information that he'd like to share, and I'd like to give him the opportunity for that. Let me just see, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen so the audience here and at home can see what he's discussing.
Get the formalities out of the way. Justin Young, Fairway Drive. And tonight I am not representing any fire department. I am here as a tax-paying citizen in the town of Thompson, Connecticut. So I want to get that clear and out of the way right off the bat.
Want to go to the next one?
Yeah, can you click enable edit?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
don't know why it's not.
there we go.
That's right. So just, this is some quick demographic information and some quick, little bit of fodder in the first couple slides, and then we'll get into some of the meat of the presentation. This is Thompson by the numbers. This is 2019 census data. So 9,351 people, 46.9 square miles. Some other demographic information, 78% owner occupied, 81% single unit, and population age category of mainly 18 to 64. So I think that's interesting to note right there. Next slide, please. So everybody's seen the memes on Facebook and everywhere else. What if no one answered the call? Right? There's a lot of us in this room tonight that have answered the call. Next slide. And so we'll get into that. The EMS proposal, as we proposed it on the night of the meeting, was to invest $500,000 in a new facility, Thompson EMS. We are also proposing that will be a full-time town managed paid service responsible for primary EMS in the town of Thompson. The funds will primarily be used towards a new public safety facility and the initial startup of a town managed and operated service, serving 100% of the Thompson community and 100% of the visitors and pass-through persons in the town of Thompson. The facts: the current ambulance service in the town of Thompson is owned, operated, and managed by the Community Fire Company, financially supplemented annually by the town of Thompson. The oversight in the ambulance is the Community Fire Company Board of Directors and membership comprised of volunteers. Their responsibilities include the SOPs, SOGs, HR, and for anybody who doesn't know, that's standard operating procedures and standard operating guidelines, HR, fiscal, facilities, and apparatus management. Been the case in the town of Thompson since 1942. I think it's interesting to note that right there. It's been the case in town of Thompson since 1942. The ambulance service is staffed by both paid and volunteer individuals, and they are mainly residents of the town of Thompson. There's some numbers down here. The town in 2019 supplemented it with 48,000, and then 2020 and 21 with 75,000 annually. There's some call statistics that I pulled together. 70% of the calls for the ambulance are transports, and that's been about the average over the last 3 years. Averaging last year in 2020 during COVID, 980 total calls, 887 EMS calls. The ambulance service responds to 80+% of the 911 calls in the town of Thompson. The ambulance also provides standby service at Thompson Speedway, which is paid. And due to the current facility conditions, no bunk rooms are available. So the evening staff or nighttime staff, 6B to 6A, has to respond from home. The ambulance service under town management would have enhanced reliability, and in my opinion, can be done for the same or less cost to the taxpayer, being a realistic goal. Thompson has the means and opportunity with the ARPA to accomplish this change. COVID took a toll on the world, and this service was on the front line the entire time for the citizens of Thompson. Why? Why should we do a full-time EMS service in the town of Thompson? The town of Thompson has the responsibility by law to provide an ambulance service. In 2021, it's imperative that the ambulance service be reliable, appropriately managed, and accountable to the citizens it serves. By creating a full-time service under the town, the liability and the accountability will fall with the town. I want to expand on that line a little bit. Currently, the town pays the insurance, the building, the apparatus, the workers' comp, and the general liability for all of the fire departments in town and the ambulance. The town, however, does not have any say in the SOPs and SOGs of the ambulance service. They can suggest, but they cannot dictate what they can and cannot do. So we as a town are paying the liability, but we don't have the authority to dictate what happens. I think the town will be able to better manage the financial aspects of the service that they are required to provide. The ambulance services 100% of the citizens of the town of Thompson. Within that, it services 12 miles of federal interstate, a pre-K through 12 school, 2 neighboring states, and 2 neighboring towns in the state of Connecticut. Operated properly, the ambulance service can be an asset to the town of Thompson. A service owned and operated by the municipality ensures local control and accountability. Next slide. Why not outsource? So this came up at it came up when we met at the library, and it's come up a couple of times since. Why not outsource? Lack of control by the town. Lack of accountability from that service. The profit does not go back to the community. And I want to be clear when I put profit in quotation marks. It's not profit. It's if one year we have a billing year where it exceeds the operating expenses, that money comes back to the town. If we outsource it and their billing exceeds the operational expenses, they put it in their pocket. Why not outsource? Because of a lack of transparency. If we outsource, we have no means to have transparency in that service. There may not be community committed staff. It's a transactional relationship. We pay them for a service, they come in and do the service, that's it. They don't do the parades, they're not part of the community at that point. Typically, outsourced services are reactive, meaning they're not strategic. They're not able to be with the town and move with the town. Next slide. What changes? The availability of the service, 24/7 staff incentivized by career opportunities. So I think that's important because that came up recently. What will a town service 24/7 be able to offer that we're not able to offer today? And that's benefits. Having a town service, we have the benefits that are already being done for the school, benefits that are already being done for DPW, benefits that are already being done for town workers. That can now be offered because Thompson is offering a career service, and they have the ability to do it. What else changes? The name on the apparatus and the uniforms of the responding personnel. And lastly, accountability. To the town, the ability to manage the overall fiscal aspects of the service, have accountability with liability, invest in local personnel who are invested in the community. I think that's an important line too. We talk about this COVID money and how we should invest it for the long term and not spend it on something short. By starting a service where we have town, where it's run by the town, and we can attract those people into the town, we're essentially paying it back to the town. Those citizens become citizens of the community that are giving back to the community and that are able to be here in town. An additional board, the only other thing that would change my suggestion would be to add an additional board for oversight that reports to the selectmen. And that board would take on the accountability for both the fire departments and the EMS. So right now, the fire departments, although they come in front of the Board of Selectmen once a year with a budget, other than that, there's not much accountability to the Board of Selectmen. Why not leave it alone? A pattern of mismanagement from the HR, facilities, fiscal management perspectives has left the service short-staffed, demoralized, and in overall disarray. The current service is one of the lowest compensated in the region. The staff has expressed grievances to the management in the past with little or no change. The current management regularly puts the town in an excessively liable position. The liability falls with the town, but the town does not have control over the actions of the current owner and operator. The EMS service is a known obligatory entity with a predictable future. The future of the overall fire service in the town of Thompson has yet to be definitively determined. Next slide. Community Fire Company. Some facts about it. It's the second oldest department in the town of Thompson, 1938 incorporated. It's the only department in the town that does not provide an R1 service. The ambulance is leveraged as their R1. CFC ambulance service was added to the original articles of incorporation in 1942, 79 years. What does it mean for CFC? So this is an important piece. If the ambulance were to be extricated from CFC, along with the impending $100,000 required to facilitate the structural repairs of the facility in order to make it legally operational again, it will no doubt place CFC in a financial hardship and could force its closure. I'm going to get into some data. The following slides are compiled from data from January of 2019 through the end of through June of 2021. They outline some call statistics in the town of Thompson. This little piece at the bottom here just identifies what is included in an EMS call. I think it's important to note that motor vehicle accidents with and without injury are included in those types of calls. Next slide. So these are the call numbers as reported for the last 3 years or 2 years and up to June. If you want to flip to the next slide, Amy, that's got the charts. So 81A is ambulance responses in the town of Thompson. 81 is the rest of the numbers are fire department responses in the town of Thompson, 81 being community, 82 being West Thompson, 83 being Quinnebog, 84 being Thompson Hill, and 85 being East Thompson. I think it's important to note that in 2020, due to medical control, fire departments were only allowed to respond to ALS calls and not BLS for med control. Next slide, Amy. This was an interesting slide. I had a hard time really wrapping my head around making sure that I could get this right on the first shot. This is cost per call for every call that comes in the town of Thompson. This is the annual stipend or grant that's given from the town divided by the total calls for that department for that given year. Next chart, Amy. We can see that the ambulance service is by far the lowest because they are also a bill for service entity. And each year I put the average line in there to identify what the average for the overall 5 departments is. Next slide, Amy. District map. So this is just to give everybody an idea where the districts are and how Thompson is laid out. The 4 orange dots are the 4 outer lying stations. The blue dot in the middle is a community fire station. And then the black dot over by 395 is the Town of Thompson DPW highway where we're suggesting currently to place the EMS facility. What I found was really interesting when I placed that dot was that it is exactly equidistant by GPS to every corner of the town. So that was a neat thing because we randomly picked that spot. I want to get into a realistic example so that everybody in this room can really understand where we're at in the town of Thompson. The following slides provide a hypothetical situation as it stands today. The current addresses do not exist and they're used for example purposes only. They're meant to illustrate the physical proximity to each other. If a caller is calling from 352 Lowell Davis and they're reporting a person in cardiac respiratory arrest, dispatch will send the ambulance and a paramedic. If the caller is calling from 351 Lowell Davis and they're reporting a person in cardiac arrest, dispatch will send the ambulance, a paramedic, East Thompson, and Thompson Hill. So what? At 352 Lowell Davis, you're going to get an ambulance crew and a paramedic. At 351 Lowell Davis, you're going to get the ambulance crew, a paramedic, and at least one qualified first responder. Typically, there are several that will show up with additional equipment to help the individual. So what? So during certain medical events, we all know that seconds count. If that means a better chance of getting an AED, oxygen, Narcan, epinephrine, or high quality CPR on scene seconds sooner, then that's what should be done. So the difference between 351 Lowell Davis and 352 Lowell Davis could be life or death. A municipally funded full-time service will provide a timely response to any location in town, and common mutual aid agreements or a consolidated fire service will provide a better response to any location in the town of Thompson. In conclusion, the ambulance service in the town of Thompson services 100% of the community and beyond, and will impact most, if not all, citizens at some point. The ambulance service was impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. The long-term cost of the town may be less than it is today. Thompson is required by law to provide the service. The opportunity's been here for years. The ARPA gives us the means to do it. And lastly, to the Board of Selectmen, I suggest that a board be formed to manage and have accountability to the Board of Selectmen for the most critical service in the town of Thompson. The last piece on the bottom here in red was a piece that came out of the VFIS report from 2018. The expectations of the citizen. When I call for a service, I expect a timely service from competent people. I don't care where it comes from, what the name of the vehicle, what's the name on the vehicle, the color, or whose territory it comes from. I just want help. And the last slide is just all of my sources. So I sat in the meeting a couple of weeks ago and John sat across from me and John Rice sat across from me. And I think it's important because I do endorse the airline trail projects, some of the school track. But I think in the town of Thompson, we are at a point where a EMS service that is funded and managed by the town is something that we should really consider with this windfall of money that we got from the federal government. With that, I yield to the board.
Okay, and the floor is still open for citizen comments at this time. Just want to specify there won't be citizen comments after we close citizen comments. There will not, it'll be a discussion between the Board of Selectmen at that time. So if there's anything anybody wants to say.
Amy, is there anything you want me to clarify on any of the grants or any of the information before you guys close comment?
Sarah, if you want to say something, we just have Mr. Duran that wants to speak, and then if you want to speak.
Sure.
Duran, 209 Brickyard Road. I'm just wondering if the town has considered what their startup costs are going to be to purchase ambulances, equipment, et cetera, on this, and the procedure to wrestle the license or take it away from community before you go and spend, $500,000 to $1 million on building. And the gentleman spoke a lot about accountability, and the town doesn't have any control over what these services do, or even the fire departments. is your plan to take over all the fire departments as well? I mean, I would think that would be your next logical step. So I would propose that we build a public service complex with a central fire headquarters in this town, and you consolidate all the fire departments. That is a smart thing to do. But nobody has the guts to do it. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is open.
Kathleen Herbert.
Kathleen,
Yes,
I gotta let the whole audience speak too. Kathleen, did you want to speak?
yes, please. My concern is I support this project 100% because my concern is the same thing we ran into with the buses at the school and the reason we outsourced the buses at the school. One, who in the town is going to
do that, or I could, oh,
who in the town is going to manage this project? Who is going to manage? Would that mean hiring another person to manage the ambulances? And as we need to replace ambulances and buy equipment for these ambulances, is it going to be like,
okay, Kathleen,
yes,
I'm so sorry. We had a little technical issue and we couldn't hear you.
okay. Can
So
you hear me now?
And yeah, we can hear you now. Can you just state your name and address again for the record?
Okay, Kathleen Herbert, 122 Wilsonville Road. My concern is, although I support this idea of Justin's 100%, who is going to manage, the ambulances? Would we hire another person? That's a legacy cost. Also, you are aware of that we did outsource the buses at the school because we were not in the bus. We decided as a school, we're not in the bus department. And what happened was when we needed to replace buses, albeit we had to have more buses than we do ambulances, it was always the easiest item to cross off the capital budget and wait till next year. Is that going to happen when we need to replace an ambulance? To keep the tax rate or the mill rate down. That's just my concern here, is that as it comes to budget time, will we cross off that ambulance as a capital item? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Kathleen. John Brissette. State your name and address, sir.
Finally, 342 Lowell Davis Road, so that was interesting to me. Sean Brissette, yeah, 342 Lowell Davis Road. So one of my concerns about this since the start is the rapid pace that it's moving. I've been attending town meetings for over 10 years. I've been volunteering in the town since I was in high school. Long-term planning never seems to be anything that we achieve here in town. And here we are again. I think it was 4 years ago, we had a Board of Finance member blatantly just throw out, I moved to defund 2 police firehouses. Everybody in the room knew it was a stupid idea. But I was sitting behind Chief Sharp and Chief Boudreau, and I asked them, okay, we know this is dumb, but can we do it more effectively? Can we do it with 3? And the response was, well, we don't know. We might be able to, but we need to do it responsibly. Perfect response. But 4 years later, we haven't done anything. And so I wish the other chiefs were here because I'd love to know how the chiefs feel about consolidation, about really figuring out what's cost effective to the town of Thompson, because we're going to be here in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years. And here we're trying to make a decision on should we spend $1.3 million on a firehouse when we don't even know if that's where the firehouse should be. As Mr. Durant said, build one building, consolidate. I don't know enough about fire EMS to even pretend to take a guess how many houses it would take. But if we don't know that that's going to be where it is, how do we commit $1.3 million to it if we could put 2 of them together, get more grant money because it's regional, and build something else? As far as the EMS goes, sounds like a great idea. Sure, there's gonna be legacy costs, but like I said with the buses, if a bus company can make a profit, then an ambulance company should be able to at least break even. And so that's how I look at that. At the end of the day, we want to get the most bang for the buck for this money. That's a big nugget to spend on one project when we don't have a vision for the future. So that's why I keep asking, is there any way to slow down? Is there any way to put stuff in and then backtrack if we can? That's something I would be looking into. As far as all the other projects, yes, I use the trails all the time. We're always hiking the trails. You know, the direct payment stuff, my concern with that was, I just don't want to piggyback. I don't want to give money to people if there's already another agency giving that same money. I'd rather use this money a different way to help people. Still helping people, but do it. Make sure that we're not handing out money that they could already be getting our tax dollars from the federal or state government. So that's how I felt about those. That's about it. Thank you.
Floor is still open and the mic virtually, we can hear you now. So if there's anyone in the virtual audience that would like to share a citizen comment, it is much appreciated. There's heavy decisions that we're going to have to make. And I agree with Sean completely that it's tough. We have until, we thought August 31st, we have until October 31st to really make decisions. So. And even those decisions, we can start small and potentially expand as we know that we have more funds available. Any other citizen comments? Just want to give everybody time. You're collecting your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm still here, Amy, if you want me to clarify any of the information about any of the grants or any of the other details. Obviously, as the author of the of the report, I can add context wherever you need it.
Okay. I'd lean on the board. That. Maybe as we go along, Tara, since you're a director here, we can, as we go into the discussion, we can lean on you for that.
Yeah, I'm in all night, so whatever you need.
Thank you, much appreciated. Yeah.
I'll be brief. Roger Duran, Brickyard Road, 209 Brickyard Road. With the new news now that this is good until October 31st, before you have to make a decision, I would implore that you at least consider our funding to shore up the station so we can get the equipment back inside by winter. That is a huge priority. We can't leave this stuff outside during the winter. So the clock's ticking. We have to get this moving ASAP. So, thank you for your consideration.
John Brissett again. I was just going to ask if you're going to still make a decision tonight, if you don't have to. October 31st. Just asking.
Okay.
To be clear on that, October 31st is our first reporting deadline. So that would mean the commitments to the projects and if we had any expenditures, which some communities would and we probably will not. But it is meant to be both of those things.
Thank you, Tara, for that clarification. Much appreciated.
Yeah, Matt Herman again, and actually she just partially answered what was going to be my question, which is my understanding was the August 31st deadline was a preliminary deadline where we aren't tied to anything, but it's a preliminary report of what we'd like to spend our funds on, which I apologize for maybe not going through the options earlier when I jumped out and said, I like option 4. It's because I've probably read that report too many times. And so I just know it too well. But the idea behind that would be that we put that proposal together, which we could beef up whatever we're going to do. And again, I would leave that to the selectmen to decide what we're going to do. Obviously, community fire is our biggest issue because we have a condemned fire department. So that's a huge issue. And all of the issues that everyone's talking about, well, you know, do we want to put money into a building? We don't know if that's the correct building. All of those things is why I like option 4, where we put this proposal in. If we get even, you know, an extra $1 million out of that grant, which my understanding is we'd have a pretty good shot of getting something. Well, now, you know, that concern of, well, we can't put all our eggs in one basket and then have nothing left to do anything else. that's why this idea that we can put together a beefed up plan. And then if we get grant money, now we have a wider option where we can take care of our fire and our EMS maybe, however it's done. I need to hear more on it because it certainly is a contentious relationship, but now we beefed up what we can do. And so that was why when I came out earlier saying option 4, that would be my goal, because it's clear we have a lot of things we need to take care of. Let's get as much money as possible to do it. But I did also want to ask that question, whether that is, when is the hard deadline, I guess. So maybe Tara could answer that.
Yeah, so the 31st is a deadline that does not end up applying to Thompson. When Orla and I first read it, there are a number of reporting deadlines, and most towns, and we're talking nationally, fall into the August 31st category. And on a first pass, it appeared that Thompson did as well, because there's a category for municipalities with fewer than 250,000 residents who received less than $5 million, into which we fall. But there's a second category into which we also fall, which is non-entitlement units. That is the one that applies to us, and our first report, therefore, is not due till the 31st of October. So it's a 2-month window that we didn't think we had.
Citizen comments. Just going to put it out there one more time. All right. All right, at this time, citizen comments are closed, and we're going to move into the meeting between the 3 selectmen to discuss the use of the ARPA funds. Who's going first?
I'll tell you what,
Go
I'll
ahead,
go
Ken.
first. Might as well. And I don't have a problem with that. There's a handout. I've got a couple extras for the audience. So wish. A lot of this is based on option 4. With this, and I'll quickly go over it. What was just said, the community station, they got to get back in the station. So we got to do something. Just water and coal don't mix. Their estimate came in at 107. We're looking at engineering costs to find out whether or not even putting addition on that property is even feasible. So I came up with $130,000 to do that. All of the fire departments go through PPE and upgrades and everything. It's one of the biggest costs that they have going. So on the fire department side, and I just put PPE, Scott's, there's other things that they use for supplies. Giving them each $75,000 to help with that, because costs are astronomical, which is $375. We compensate the ambulance for operating costs at 75. I put in 1 year of operating costs for the 75,000. Again, PPE and different upgrades to help them with their service. So that was my thinking. And the reason for that part of thinking, just as a couple of people have said, there is no definitive plan. Even the VFIS that was done a few years ago may have mentioned, yeah, if you had to start a system over, do 3, locate, and have it better centrally. But we have to deal with what we're dealing with, as a department, as the town, to get the best service. And again, to do it totally funded would be astronomical. And there may be a way to do it. Maybe the Woodstock model will help us with that when the fire departments start doing that. And, some of that cost control may come into effect, because they submit a budget and their equipment is looked and different things, and it all comes under. The WPCA, I went with the lower number that Tira had in there, and I agreed with it because of the people that they service. The system's been out there since roughly 45 years that we've had this system. It affects roughly 1,200 households in the area of sewer. We've been doing Band-Aids and patches, other than the phosphorus upgrade that we did, I think 3 years ago at the highway over at WPCA. So, and if we fund the whole thing, you got 1,200,
they're operating, barely keeping above board based on the cost. You know, Marianapolis had hooked up that would have given more income into that, the mill coming online. We really need a system that's gonna be able to handle, you know, the flow of it. And we have to also look at what the people are paying for usage. You'd be looking at, you know, what I think it's what, 480 a year. I may be off. It's just under $500 for the, I don't know, you hooked to the system, Amy? Was it 480?
100,
480?
480.
Yeah, something like that. So in order to make up that 753, the amount of money that you would have to get from the users would be astronomical. Who are the users in town? A lot of our senior citizens, an awful lot of rental units, which are apartments. So it all gets passed on and the cost is there. The train wreck park, definitely with the 155 matching grant. To me, that's the way to go. We need to do that piece of our history. And, you know, there may be other fundings there that we can get. Same thing with WPCA, even in the upgrades. There may be, you know, grants that may be available that come up. The phosphorus, there was a grant to do, you know, a good portion of that. So, and I put that at the bottom. You continue to look at those things. The track engineering cost, definitely put that money in there. Let's get a definitive cost, see if that can be done on the school's construction and have a firm plan for that and get that done. Healthy childhood, 200,000. It made sense. We have a lot of kids that are in, out, single, you know, a variety of reasons, parents working. The direct assistance, I just threw a couple of things. The seniors, the veterans, the impacted businesses, people that, as even what Matt said, I didn't even think of that one, that just continue to work and they got nothing other than whatever the stimulus check was. So we can, that was $570,800. Definitely the salt shed, there's a possibility there could be grant money there. If not, there's a USDA loan. Do the 50, let's get this thing engineered and done and have it something to move forward with. Because it is needed, even though the report was very ambiguous. We've been talking about the Bull Hill Recreation. Again, the engineering cost up there, great facility. You know, UConn did a quick study on it. You know, gave us some ideas of what may have to be done, but it's a good stepping stone to start, but an engineer has got to sign off what we actually need to do with this. Then I was thinking, you know, and I added these two things. The library, we don't have a generator there. You know, we use it as a cooling center. It's very possible to have brownouts. If we go into any length of power outages, you know, have a generator there. We have the community center. People can come down, meet. We do it with the meals program. It'd be money well spent to put there. That type of thing, you know, even what we had done here with the generator, we were looking at a facilities grant through USDA, and whether it's 40 cents on the dollar or whatever, that can reduce that cost. That was a round number. You know, this room here, again, we have a variety of groups that use this throughout the year. There's different crafts that are done. The EOC is here. This is the only spot that we don't have any air conditioning in. And it would be very beneficial to this. And that came up to the 2,775,000. These are just some ideas. It's spread around very well. You know, if you take out the library or the SNA room or something, you know, maybe we contract out and, you know, build on the VFIS, you know, study and get some more definitive planning done, you know, with that, you know, that's another option. And I would hope, you know, even anything that we put our money into that, you know, we may come under, that we'd be able to shift some of those funds over to another program that we're doing that, you know, just like we did with the bog ramp and the Brownsfield. You know, we did this, we had some extra money, you know, then we did the sidewalks and did the engineering cost and, you know, we were able to work it and, you know, adjust as we go along. So those are just some of my thoughts on it. And it touches a great deal of different programs.
Safe choices. Some safe choices, not necessarily bold. Safe, status quo. Suzanne, do you have thoughts?
So I do have a lot of thoughts. We have an opportunity to make some change here in Thompson with this money. And we have an opportunity that will affect our taxpayers. And as bold as it is, and Roger, you brought up a good point, consolidation. We need to start working. The fire departments have been talking about consolidating and working together, but it is time that we really consolidate and look at building one fire department, one town fire department, not privately owned, not nonprofit. Do we need 5? I don't believe we do. I don't believe we do. We have 4 stations at each end of town and 1 in the center. I really think it's time we put our investment into consolidation. And I strongly feel that in the center of town or at the garage, that we look at putting an emergency services building that would house the EMS, and I'm supporting a town funded or a town run EMS service. I think calling it you wouldn't need a generator down at the library because you would be able to facilitate a warming station there if something happened with, a cooling station or whatever, but also having the emergency management there, having Jamie's fire marshal there, having some, I saw a model at one point, I think Justin, you had put out or something that included some training facilities. We could use that to have COVID shots. We could have EMS training, working with the school. It could be an education center. I mean, there's a lot that could be done there, but it also ties in with the salt shed, which to me is another big project that has been on the shelf since I can remember. The salt shed. Part of this grant, reading the documentation that went along with it, talked about water. The salt shed plays into that. I'd love to see something done with the WPCA. The upgrades. This is an opportunity to do big projects. We can throw money at PPE, we can throw money and put Band-Aids on things all day long. But this is really an opportunity for us to do something with this money. Big projects, things that we would never be able to do. That's just my thought. Those are my.
I also was really excited, Mr. Duran, when you said consolidation, because I've put a lot of thought into this, especially over these last few months of knowing what we were getting. And the way I understand it and the way it's explained to me is that if you were one district, not necessarily one building, one district, it would open you up. So instead of 5 departments fighting for the same grants, you would come under one district and you would be working as a larger entity, attempting to acquire grants. But does it?
You would need substations. to do that.
Right, absolutely.
But I'm speaking as
Yeah.
a private citizen, not a community fire company. For years I thought
Oh.
consolidation was the way to go.
Yeah, point of order, sorry. We're just BOS. I was directing it to you, so I apologize. That was my fault. I did also like option 4, section 4, or sorry, option 4 that maximizes the potential for leveraging funds into state grants that Tara had presented to us. So to that end, I really leaned on what she provided to us. And I would say that aid to impacted industries, tourism, the airline trail and train wreck park, if it was me, I would fully fund what was being requested at $155,144. Water and sewer infrastructure, I would probably reduce that from what Tira had proposed and offer $681,375. And then provide $72,000 for the track engineering. I hesitate to put any money towards the fire department unless a consolidation plan is in place. And that's been worked on for 4 years now. And nothing's come to fruition. I think we're missing out on an opportunity to consolidate and think bigger than just a $1 million fire department. A nice centrally located department that has all of the bells and whistles and everything of a fire department needs to function properly in this century would probably be closer to 5 to 7 million. So it's bigger thinking, but we have to make that change and step out and be bold and say, we're going to consolidate. And that means that we need buy-in from all 5 chiefs. If we don't have that, I just can't see putting money into a building that's dilapidated. For that reason, I would lean towards fully funding the project at the Public Works facility, an EMS facility, AKA public safety building, which would house the EMS, emergency management, the fire marshal, and potentially space for a future resident trooper to come back to this town. That's my bold vision. The salt shed isn't just a salt shed, so I always want to make sure that I clarify. It's not a shed like is there now. It's a full enclosed, encapsulated facility that contains the salt and prevents salt runoff into the streams that feed the Connecticut water supply. And it's not just private wells, it's the Connecticut water supply. That is something we have to take care of, lest we have the liability of contaminating that supply. That's a first priority to me, additionally. And then looking at Tira's options that she gave to us, which was phenomenal. She did a great job with that. We might qualify to still provide direct assistance to households. We might still qualify to do the building rehab at 65 Main, but what we're taking care of from the get-go is the most important and critical projects. We have to provide an ambulance service. We have to make sure that those ambulances are housed someplace in the not so distant future. So I have reached out to a local business person to see if in the interim we could rent space there to house the ambulances. So they are considering that now. I don't know any details of even if they're interested, but I have worked to at least find some place for them to be housed in the interim, because if I understand correctly, they're in the elements right now. So, and those are my thoughts. And I just can't say enough. Tira did a fabulous job putting these options together and spelling it out for us. The wordsmith.
So I agree with option 4, and I did not state that. And I also agree with the track, which I also did not state as being part of the first round projects, shall we say, or some of the more
The engineering costs.
engineering costs. Yeah.
It was brought up by a resident that when I was discussing randomly with someone and they said, well, if you do the engineering for the track, that's just going to sit on a shelf someplace, and is the track never going to get done? If we move forward with that, we have to make sure that a plan is in place to get this track done. Because I know my sons, from the time they were in middle school through high school, never had a track to run on, never had a home track meet. And that's a shame. And when we talk healthy childhood, that's a part of healthy childhood too.
And that was something that from Ken's suggested projects, that engineering costs for several different projects, but we need to have a plan to move forward with them after that, because we've done studies, we've done this, but we would need to have, and that with the track would have to have, you know, some sort of a plan to move forward with how we can.
You know, and something to consider too, it was brought to my attention by Frank McGarry the other day. Municipal bonds right now are at the lowest in history. So to do some bonding on some projects, potentially even a fire department in the future might be, you know,
An option.
at very low, very, very low interest.
Yes, that's
So-
true.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
It's like
about
almost
that.
free money. Sort of.
But we do have to have that plan in place, that engineering, in order to move it forward to the next level and then seek out the funding and, get the Board of Finance on board and get the, budgetary process. The salt shed, I only went with the engineering cost because I'm a firm believer that if these funds were never there, that it would be something that we would do through the budget. Period.
But it's been 4 years.
Oh, it's been longer
Practically.
than that.
No, but I'm saying, but once it's done, without these funds, whether it's a USDA or the bonding, we would figure a way to do it, just like we do when we replace a 9-ton dump truck. We plan it out, get it done, and this is that type of cost. These other American Recovery Funds, I would rather, my thinking is whether or not the public is willing to fund it. If they're not willing to fund it, that's where these funds should be used, because it's a one-time expense, get it out of the way, and you're not going after the tax base on it.
But that's where you're incorrect, though,
But
because the
that's where the
salt
salt
shed has
shed
been
is.
turned down every single year by the Board of Finance. What you're doing here, Ken, is you're throwing a bone to every single department. Here you go, here you go, here you go. It's an election year. I'm sorry, but that's what it looks like to me. Here's 75 for you, and you get 75, and I'm the Ellen DeGeneres show, and I'm gonna give everybody a little bit of something. You're not, but we're not accomplishing the tasks that are at hand, the infrastructure that's been failing, the liability that we potentially have from certain items in town, including WPCA. That's a great one. I'm so happy that you have that in there.
Not a problem.
The salt storage facility has been tossed about for years now. I've seen it and nothing has come about because it always comes down to, we don't have the money in the budget.
We can't even put the money in for an engineering project.
Right.
To get the thing off the ground. And it
It
is
got
an issue.
15,000 this year, I think it was.
But it's not throwing a bone to everybody.
That's what it was.
But this is, again, not politics, and you shouldn't be bringing that up. It's inappropriate. I've been a member of the fire department for 47 years. I've seen the highs and the lows and everything that has gone through. I know how it is to get from point A to point B is a very slow, methodical process that has to be bought in by all the departments.
Right.
And we just can't wave a flag and say, we're doing this. PSA is owned by community fire company. The only way that gets removed is if they go belly up, or we can prove they're not providing the service. Then OEMS comes in. And any of this stuff should have a discussion with the PSA owner. What would you like to do with this? Are you overwhelmed? And have that discussion.
It was brought to my attention during budget season that if something didn't occur, that ambulance service was going to close in December. So that weighs heavy on my mind. When a threat is made to the first selectman that I'm going to close the ambulance service come December, if it doesn't happen, that weighs heavy on my mind, and I know I have to protect that service. That became very important to me
Okay,
because we know that it's a needed service in town.
and I'll counter comment on it. If you got that kind of a comment, why wasn't it brought to the Board of Selectmen to turn around and decide, let's get the ambulance people in, Board of Directors?
And it was discussed.
Not to the point
We
where they were
discussed
gonna.
it during budget
It was
season.
discussed
And that
during
is why
budget season.
we decided that we would put the funding into a monthly stipend. Because the instability.
We were in
Okay,
budget
that was
workshops.
brought up not by the Board of Directors.
We discussed the
Potential of it closing.
potential for them to close. We did discuss that. And that was why we did it the way we did it.
the chief right here.
No, I'm saying we discussed
I
it. The chief is
understand
not
that
a-
it was
It was our discussion during,
You said that that I didn't discuss it with the Board of Selectmen, and it was during the budget meetings that it was brought up.
And
yes.
there was comments about how we should fund the money. And we said, okay, we'll hand it out over a period of 12 months, which,
In the
Because there
concern
was-
that they might not be stable and that may not last until December. That is why we discussed it and that was what we moved forward with. We decided we were putting it into a transfer account. So it could be,
So they were
then,
getting-
and that they would be dispersed as needed. But then, that's right, they would it was allotted for them, but it was the Board of Finance that said disperse it monthly, which works as well. But it was discussed.
But I would hope
I
that the
just-
board of directors would come to us and say,
Right.
we are definitely going, belly up at this point. We need to figure out, do a transition,
Well,
whether it's, private or whatever it is.
I sat in on a meeting of the Board of Directors of the Fire Department of Community, where they had given the blessing for the members to be able to separate if that was, or however it was to be worked out. I don't remember the exact wording, that if it was something that the ambulance wanted to separate from fire department, that they could look into doing that. So it's not a new topic. That's what I'm saying.
Have never been. They're always asking
The
for money.
separation from EMS and the fire department is what I'm saying. It's not a new topic.
The fact is, we just, no matter what, we want what's best for the community. We want what's best for the fire departments. And I don't want status quo.
Well, status
I want a
quo,
bigger picture and a bigger vision for where this town can go. Because it's time.
and again, with that, if you're going to do that, we need to do a better study than we did with the FIS. And
More
have,
studies. More studies.
But-
It was a waste of
That
money.
that was, yeah.
When we have a head on our shoulders and we can make decisions. Granted, we can't make decision unless there's buy-in from the 5
they
departments.
gotta buy in.
But
They haven't even been able to buy in to go to the Woodstock model, which puts them totally under our budget.
And that's been bounced around for years
know.
now.
it does not
Years, and
necessarily, it's
nothing-
the same pot of money.
We're not moving forward. We're spinning our wheels year after year after year, and year after year, we're giving a little more here and a little more there and a little, and the taxpayers are seeing their taxes go up year after year. This is an opportunity to do something to change the way that we've been operating. And it was bounced around at the meeting last week or 2 weeks ago about consolidation. And I think we'd like to work with the fire departments to work on consolidating and having a town-owned fire department and seeing what that looks like. But right now, we have an EMS service that does not have a home. They do not have a building. That is why that, to me, is a priority.
And they were on the front lines more than anybody during COVID. They answered every call.
Well, EMS and all the 5 fire departments
Not
were on the.
During the
line.
height of COVID, the
Well,
fire departments.
The
couldn't
other
answer
4 fire
calls.
departments, I'll beg to differ, do a R1 response and meet the
R1, right.
ambulances at this. And.
They do.
Yeah, so between the whole EMS, whether it's strictly the ambulance or the other 4 fire departments, we're out straight all year.
So we can agree to disagree, but when it comes right down to it, how do we move forward on this?
Well, we could take project by project that was presented initially at our
Why don't
by
we,
Tira and just vote yay or nay for moving forward in some respects, and then we could drill down on the dollar amount. Not taking
So
into
not-
consideration anything new, because we had time to bring in new projects. We should discuss what was brought to the public. What was brought to the public was what was presented, not any extra
New
projects.
projects, but are you suggesting, excuse me, to approve the project and not so much the dollar amount?
And then we could drill down on the dollar amount when we know which projects
As
we want to move
not at
forward
this
with.
meeting, but as we move forward. Is that what, I'm,
I'm not sure. It's open, but I'm just
and this
thinking
is
we need
where,
to pick
this
the
is where
projects first.
I want to know how we move forward.
Because certain projects, so number one, this is primary, this is what we want to accomplish. And then this, and then this, and then if we have extra money. Because at this point, we have no engineering at all for any of the projects. We're only shooting out quick guesstimates
Mhm.
relative to the information that we've had in the past, whether it's the director of WPCA giving us a total amount. So. And we know that building costs are higher than they used to be.
and they keep going up. with
Right,
Up, and that's
Will be a
that,
consideration.
and every town in the state of Connecticut received this money, so.
And that's another thing. all of the towns are going to be trying to contract engineers. All the towns are going to be going out to bid for various projects. So as much as time doesn't seem of the essence, time is of the essence. And I think Thompson is pretty much far ahead of the game, and I'm grateful for that. And again, yeah, grateful that we've been able to move relatively fast on this. So. I'm just gonna look.
Which one are you looking at? I only have.
I know, I only
printouts of
have
the
those.
options. But do we need a motion? Is that what we need?
We could drill down on these options that Kira had set before us, option 1. To start that way, and then we can discuss each option and the potential. Actually, maybe we'll just do it this way. I make a motion that we move to further discussion on option 4, maximum potential for leveraging funds into state grants.
Agree with that.
Any second?
So we have a motion and a second, all in favor of moving forward with discussion on option 4, maximum potential for leveraging funds into state grants. Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so we know that that's the direction we're gonna go. It's the most sensible. One of the items that are listed is aid to impacted industries. I'm just gonna move forward. I make a motion that we fully fund the $155,144.10 to aid to impacted industries, airline, trail, and train wreck park. I make that motion. Then we can have discussion.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on potentially moving forward with this project?
I believe we're all in agreement on that.
All in favor of fully funding aid to impacted industries, tourism, airline, trail, and train wreck park, a total of $155,144.10, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's not listed in this plan, but I would like to move forward with fully funding the $72,200 for the track. So it's not completely listed, so we'd have to tweak the numbers, but I would make a motion that we fully fund the engineering and design work for the high school track at a total of $72,200.
I'll
Yeah,
second
I have
that.
that as well.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All in favor of fully funding the design work for the engineering and design work for the track at a total of $72,200, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Want to just. Oh, my
But
calculator.
it is part of. For,
Yeah. Oh, it was?
yeah, it's here. Yeah, promote healthy childhood, which was 272,200.
That's in the second page.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's-
in the
but
second,
it's
it's in the second tier.
Yeah, but it's not included in that initial, here, if I'm correct, it's not included in the initial 2 million.
That's
Or
right.
is it?
That's right, because I peeled out the top 3 public priorities, plus the largest remaining infrastructure into that first ask, and then the tourism piece is actually a separate grant. So those are the 2, and then all of the sort of secondary tier stuff landed in that second category, but it can be rebalanced for sure.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't think our goal is necessarily to come up to the exact 2.7 million, because we want to leave room for contingency, so to speak, rather than putting it all out there and saying, oh, we're going to spend all this and then coming up short. So don't want that. So water and sewer infrastructure. I'd make the motion that we fund $681,500 for water and sewer infrastructure.
Second that.
Okay, any discussion on that?
Yeah, how did you come up with the
I
681?
took the 72.2 off of what Tara had proposed at 753. Because it is funded by usage. So the town doesn't necessarily, it doesn't completely cover all of our townspeople.
So you took the track.
I took the track from that amount
Oh, okay.
because it wasn't in
Okay.
this initial 2.6.
That's what I was wondering too, Ken.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, because when I did it, I went through everything, including the second page, balanced it out. So I had the 72 in there. I had the full 753 in there.
Second option, you mean?
I just know, I feel pretty strongly that moving with this, we'll be able to get the additional funds as Tira has presented to potentially fund the other projects. And then we'll have another ball of money to,
So you're looking at 681 and change.
I made it 681.5 because it was easy to remember.
Yeah, if you took the 72 of it, it's fine.
Any other discussion on this?
It's in the right direction. This needs to be done.
It does. Right, so all in favor of approving moving forward with the water and sewer infrastructure upgrades to the wastewater treatment plant in the total of $681,500, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. We're at 908,844, just for reference sake. Here is the tougher part, but I would lean towards, I would make a motion that we fund $1,367,000 towards the design of a new public safety facility and a salt storage facility at the Public Works Garage.
And that would be,
$1,300,000.
I'll second it. Now discussion.
So we have a motion and a second, open for discussion.
And that would be for, you're calling it what? A public
safety facility.
public safety.
EMS, emergency management, fire marshal, potential for a future resident trooper, and space for a shelter, cooling station, etc. Training center.
And to be clear, it's ambulance and salt shed.
Salt
I mean,
storage facility.
Yeah, for ambulance, salt shed, and the other,
And all of the engineering that goes with it.
and the engine. Okay, and I seconded, so now we're.
We have and you want a location of where?
Public Works Garage. mentioned.
Yeah, I have a problem with the Public Works Garage, even though the central location. We have the buses up there. We have our current salt sheds where they are. We've got wells behind the current salt shed. They store various equipment, construction equipment behind that fence. The location to put the salt shed is in that left corner where you're talking about putting in this facility. And you're not leaving the highway department with the room and the things that they need to do up there. Storage of materials, sifting materials. You know, everything that you're proposing is not going to fit there.
So let's move the project and not identify the design. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're right, Ken. It may have some, it may not be a perfect location, and we may have to look at other options. It may have to be located somewhere else.
And what I didn't add in was there is still $500,000 left, which we can put aside. And if the fire departments were to move forward with some type of consolidation, I would be all for shoring up the floor at community fire department. But we have to make some major changes. Because I was just told that nobody ever had the guts to say this. I'm having the guts to say it. We can do this. We can make things even better for our fire departments. We can give them what they need. But there has to be some give and take, not all the town giving. There has to be some cooperation and collaboration. We can unify. And as a town, we'll be stronger because divided, we fail. United will be stronger. Fire service will be stronger. we consolidate. And then maybe we do discuss a different site.
So we approve the project without identifying the
Without
location.
identifying the location, absolutely. I did both say that I did talk about this with our public works director. We discussed layout, we discussed where things could go, whether there'd be enough space, and he was in agreement. He was okay with it. So I will say that before anything was discussed, I went to that department first. And maybe we put the 500,000 that's left towards seed money towards maybe a new site. But that's discussion, but at least we know what we're moving forward with, and we can start actually moving forward. Maybe the 500,000 eventually gets used. I mean, people have talked about it for years, purchasing the building site. There's still 500,000 we can leave. It's extra seed money.
I would feel more comfortable if we had the buy-in from the other departments. Because it makes it a lot easier. That everybody's on board to get, a direction and pulling all for one. That's the
Well, we're
only,
not forcing them to consolidate. We're making a decision on building a public safety building. We're not forcing them to consolidate. We're asking them to work with us to consolidate, to create a new service.
again, it gets back to the PSA with the community ambulance and everything else. You're forcing something down their throat that,
Well,
You
we
know-
have a meeting next week. I would love us all to be in agreement. So far, we have 3 projects we're in agreement on. The good news is we can move forward with starting that stuff. In the meantime, we can get additional input from the chiefs. Maybe we could have a sit down with them. to
Well, we
discuss
have a
this.
motion on the floor.
Right.
We can plan it after, but we either vote yes or we vote no. I know how I feel. I'm ready to vote.
I think the issue at hand in the short range at the very moment right now is getting community back into their station. And that should be the priority. They've got to be housed, the trucks have got to get in. It's
I don't
short
want-
money. And that should be the priority.
I don't want to offend community, and you've served this town well for many, many years. And God knows we all appreciate it. But this is not a new issue that community has been facing. This has been years and years and years. And
No funds.
no
No funds.
effort to gain, no effort to, the other departments have been able to figure out a way to get by on what they're given from the town. But community has, well, that is why we want to change the program. That is why we want to make it a more town-owned, town-wide department.
Not saying.
When, if you decide that you want to close community, is it worth investing into this building?
You're gonna do when the truck calls you for. I'm more than happy to bring insurance on.
And the town will be
So
liable for
we
that.
have a motion on the
Okay,
floor.
we have a motion
And
and we
I'm
have
ready
a
to
second.
vote.
Okay. All in favor of applying 1,367,000 towards the future of an ambulance site and salt storage facility, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that was Suzanne Witkowski, yes, because the new rules are, you have to, did you get that memo? Okay, so you'll write that accordingly in the minute. Thank you, Dottie.
All vote.
It has to be a
that's what
roll
you're
call
saying.
vote,
Yeah.
so when it's not unanimous. I would like to make a motion that we keep $500,000 at this point as just seed money for the future, or for just seed or contingency. Contingency, we'll call it. I'd like to put $500,000 towards contingency. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion on that? And that, when I say contingency, I mean, if we can, we've got
Future
months,
Future
Future.
consideration.
future consideration, whatever it might be to benefit potentially a fire department. And I really believe that strongly, but I just think it's important. Any further discussion on that? All in favor of allocating $500,000 towards contingency, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that motion passes. And at this point, we're going to move forward with allowing Tira to keep investigating these grants to see what we might be eligible for, and hopefully, I know that the airline trail will be getting a matching grant. So excited to see what else might come up. And this time it's the conclusion of the meeting. I make a motion that we adjourn at 7:26 PM. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.